All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm really glad that you have joined us for this important community conversation. Like I said, it's a unique one. Um, we are combining kind of a training with some information and encouragement to get involved in something that's happening this summer. Um, in our network, in our community here with UMCRM, we say it often and we really mean it. Summer staff are the heart of United Methodist Camping Ministry. And Summer Staff is also one of the largest, if not the largest, young adult ministries of our annual conferences across the country. Summer Staff are um, one of those roles that's so important and vital in building the connections with campers. They have the direct relationship building with campers. They are uh, pivotal in shaping the faith experiences and infusing every day of camp with energy, with compassion, and their leadership in camp really is what makes camp transformational. These young adults, they're not only leading campers, but they're also growing in their own faith, developing skills, understanding Christian community. And that's why it's so important for us to invest deeply in them, not only during their time on staff, but through, like we're going to talk about today, through research, through our reflection on our approach to summer staff. All of these things will help us better serve, better support, and better empower our summer staff as we work with them and as a ministry. So today's focus is going to be on the implementation of a study this coming summer that looks at the impact of the summer staff experience. We are really excited to be launching the UMCRM Summer Staff Impact Study, which is for us a groundbreaking initiative for our community that's going to allow us to measure the growth, measure faith formation development, and the vocational impact of summer staff over the course of a camp season. It's through a pre-summer and a post-summer survey that will collect the data that can help us tell the really powerful story of what it means to serve on summer staff. And it's going to give us insights into how we can improve the training, improve the support, and the overall experience for the future of our summer staffers. This project is being directed by our partners at Sacred Playgrounds using a peer-reviewed methodology of the Camp and Church Leadership Project. It's funded by UMCRM and it's designed specifically for United Methodist camps. And we have a small team that is guiding this research. Augie Langford from Camp Pacomath and Arthur Spriggs from the South Carolina Annual Conference are helping to serve on that leadership team, so thank you. If you're already signed up, thank you. If you're not signed up yet, my hope for today is that you are inspired to join us in participating in this summer's research. Your role as a participant is vital. It's also simple. Administering a short pre-summer survey at the start of staff training and a follow-up survey at the end of the season, which we're going to talk a lot more about in depth over the next hour. And we're also going to talk more about the benefits of conducting this research, including individual camps with 20 or more responses are going to receive their own mini report with customized data from their staff, which is very exciting. And to help us guide us through all the details, the why, the how, the what's going to come next, I'm excited to welcome Jared Rendell and Kelsey Blin from Sacred Playgrounds. They're both bringing a deep knowledge of this research and a passion for helping camps thrive through meaningful data and insights. So whether you're already signed up for the study or you're just here to learn more, we're really glad that you are here with us. So let's dive in. Jared, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hey everybody, thanks Jessica. Great intro, really, really helpful. We'll keep digging into all those things, like you said, the why, the how, and the what, as we talk. So yeah, hello, I'm Jared Rendell. On our small Sacred Playgrounds team, I serve as our director of communications and innovation. A handful of you have either met or worked with some of the other team. Jake, our director and lead researcher. Pastor Anna Sorensen takes care of our operations, and then Kelsey got to join the party today too, who you will meet now. I'll let her say hi in just a second here, and she'll be one of your really your probably most primary point of contact as she takes care of the process and logistics and things like that. Kelsey, you want to say hi quick?
Hello, everyone. Yep, as Jared said, I'll be kind of contacting you throughout this process and being your main go-to with your questions.
Kelsey, hop in when we get there. Are you seeing that screen okay, everybody? Awesome. So first slide is just in case you were like, hey, I know I want to do this, but I just haven't done it yet. You can snap the code, or you can grab that link. We'll try to put it in the chat as well. A time or 6 over the course. So this is going to take you to a hey, we want to do this form. This isn't the actual study yet. This is we're planning on it. So we're hoping that anybody who's not signed up today will join the 40 camps who already are signed up. And we'd love to see UMCRM we'd love to see that number get over 50. And so among the call to actions will be sign up if you haven't, and tell your best camp friend to sign up if they haven't, whether that's down the street or across the state or across the country or whatever it might be. So, oops. All right, so we said hi. This is who we are again. I'll move past that one. I am curious as we start. You can answer this in the chat, or if you feel like jumping in out loud, maybe I'll create some quiet space for just a second. So you're going to see as we go, you're going to see a handful of data. Some of this data is going to be from some OMC survey work like this one, and some is going to be from some other similar projects that we'll share more about in a second. I'm curious, because this speaks to what we're talking about, where you might be on this data point. So one of the things we found out in our not our most recent, because it just closed and we're working on it right now, the OMC director survey, the one from 2022, was that 85% of OMC camp directors, which UMCRM is part of, the OMC, agree with this statement that says our camp emphasizes our summer staff formation just as much as our camper formation. So you can pick. Maybe you want to use the reactions functionality or chat in, or clap or raise your hand, or however you want to do that. But I'm curious how where you are in that. If you have agreement with that, if you're kind of part of that 85%, or maybe there's something hybrid in the middle there. At least to reflect on for a second. Where are you with this? Do you find summer staff formation to be a point of emphasis, to be something that you do on purpose, to be something that you're after as part of the ministry of your camp, in addition to, of course, the impact that you want to have on campers and you want to have on their families? Clearly, a lot of directors find this to be important, an important part of your ministry, as they also empower are the executors of, are the ones who, as Jessica said, are the heart of your summer ministry. So I see you chatting in, or some reactions. We'll go from there. Here's the plan. We're going to run through some overall project purpose. You already heard a bunch of those words from Jessica, and I stamp them and agree with them wholeheartedly. We'll talk overview of the 2 surveys, some process and logistics, show you and let you know how the outcomes are going to come out. Leave some time for questions, talk some clear next steps. This is our kind of agenda. This is our plan. So 7. You heard from Jessica, project, purpose overall, why UMCRM said this matters. This is something that we're going to do, and we're going to do on purpose because summer staff matter a lot. And the data says the same thing. When you, our mission statements, right, are full of these words like impact and faith formation, and right, we want to impact lives of those who participate in our camp. And that makes staff really, really vital, again, because both are happening for them. They're both being impacted, formed themselves, and they are the primary driver of the impact that you're having on campers. And so these staff really matter. And the truth is that knowing where they're coming from and knowing the things that make the biggest difference on their experience are really helpful to know. And when we can operate off of what we know, when we can take data and add that to all the great stories that we have, if you've done like effective camp projects or things like that, you've heard this. Like part of what we're doing is we want to take these great stories. Campers and you camp leaders are amazing storytellers, right? We do that all the time. We have all these amazing stories, of your own impact, of your own, either summer staff experience or camper experience or your experience now in leadership. We take these amazing stories, we add valuable data and insights, and now we're really getting to impactful narrative that we can share widely and do other key things with, which we'll talk about. So if we're going to put a couple big check marks on the project purpose, we want to assess the impact of the summer staff experience at UMCRM camps. And we want to gain insights that will help you make decisions, make choices that can maximize and optimize the support that you give to your summer staff, the way that you maximize their experience, and the support you give that will make that happen. If we're going to put a couple stamps, those are big project purposes. So I'm going to show you 2 slides here, and you're going to see just some comparison here. These are examples, and these are going to be filtered throughout, are examples of data that we found recently when we did some similar studies. We've done 2 similar studies. You heard Jessica refer to the Camp and Church Leadership Project. That was kind of the initial basis, the initial peer-reviewed methodology, meaning that other researchers have looked at it and said, yep, this is a good way to do this. This is a good way to gather these insights and data, and it's valid. A valid way to know this. So, so that happened initially with a set of Lutheran camps that was funded by an ELCA grant, and then we also repeated that just this last year with a similar study, and similar to this one. We'll make some tweaks to be designed specifically for that context. We did one with the Episcopal Church that was one of 3 waves of data from them. So this was an example of a leadership-based piece. You heard Jessica talk about the vocational impact, and that's for sure part of what we're curious about. So in this one was Episcopal leaders that we're seeing comparative data, and we'll be able to stack yours up against this. 53% of Episcopal church leaders attended camp, 36% served on summer camp staff. Here are the Lutheran numbers for that from the at least the ELCA folks. Soon we'll be able to stack up your numbers as well. But these are a little bit just by way of example of some data, some information that we're gleaning from some of these studies. So let's talk survey overview. Part of the goal here is, and has been as the team has been designing this, to make this really easy on you to implement is the truth, and really easy for your staff actually to take. Thankfully, we've kind of figured out this methodology that doesn't have to have a huge impact and time cost and all of that on you. And because of UMCRM valuing this, any financial cost is there too. So the goal is to make this really easy to say yes, and then really easy to do. So we're going to gather insights in 2 surveys, and those surveys happen on the way in and the way out. All right. So there is what we call a pre-camp survey. It doesn't need to be taken before they arrive. The idea is that staff will take this initial survey, this first survey, the kind of pre-camp survey, within the very first day or 2 that they arrive. A bunch of the questions on this survey are really about their perspective of where they're coming from, their past experiences, the things that they've been going through, what life is like, all of that. We want to see where they're coming from, how things like how's their mental health, what is their church participation like, what are they doing for their own faith formation, et cetera, et cetera. So we're trying to gain perspective on where they're coming from. And that's really valuable to know. Things like, and I think you'll see this a little further, what are their motivators for coming to camp? Why did they say yes? Right? When we know that, now we can build recruiting around that and things like that. So the pre-camp survey, the hope is that they will take that on the way in. The most ideal setting, the most ideal space to create for this to make sure that it happens is to intentionally put time in your staff training for this early on. It doesn't need to be the very first thing you do, right? Get them in their initial orientation, evening and things like that. But part of that first day or maybe 2, we want to create some time to take this survey. It will, we've learned, work much better if you intentionally block off time. And maybe it's a snack break where you're putting the link and the QR code up on their screen and tell them, go ahead, get out your phones or get out your tablets or get out a laptop, and we're going to do this together. We're going to do this right now. Go grab a snack and come do that. By far, better response when you create intentional time in your, and the front end here, usually staff training in orientation to do this. So that's the big time recommendation there, to capture all that by doing it together at the same time. And the surveys are this was probably clear already, but the surveys, plan A is that they're online, right? We've got them built, and are finalizing the questions really right now, over the next handful of days even. Those questions are getting finalized. And so the surveys are designed to be online. If that's a roadblock for some reason, just in your context, you can let us know. There's a way we can work out, paper surveys and getting those data entered. Overall, saves everybody a lot of time and process, and even for sake of accuracy and things like that, that we can get all of that data in there together in that online format. So that's plan A. You can reach out to us or to Jessica if that's really a roadblock and you're not going to be able to do it without a paper survey. We'll try to get that worked out. Does that make sense? The highlights are create intentional time, create specific time for it. Works way better than saying, hey staff, I'm going to send you an email, please do this sometime. So that's pre-camp survey and the idea of what that's for, right? And then they go through this summer experience. You do what you do. And then on the way out of camp, we want to have them take another assessment. This post-camp, pre-departure, but post, ideas is about post-camp, is taken on the way out. So similarly, the hope is that they would take this within the last day or maybe two before they depart. Again, it's going to work better as part of your close down, your debrief, your end of summer closing things, if those staff members can take this with blocked off intentional time to build in so that, because the idea is that we're going to match these, right? So that's part of what is maybe unsaid. We want to match the pre-camp with the post-camp, and there's a way in the, how it works, it gets coded where we can match, so we can actually track, the different folks who are coming from different perspectives have these different outcomes. And there's a lot of value in being able to connect those. And so the hope is that a high percentage of them will be filling out the pre-camp survey and the post-camp survey on the way out. And if you can build intentional time for that, that's really helpful. So I realize I've drilled that a lot, on what works clearly best in getting that dedicated time. And that's the best way to make sure that they have good participation. Again, the survey itself, both of them, they take about 15 minutes is all, right? So we're not asking for 3 hours of staff training time for them to do this. A break or some intentional time for them to reflect on this on purpose, where you give them a block of even maybe 20 to 30 minutes if they're really taking their time, is all they're going to need. The surveys take about 15 minutes to fill out, both of them. Does that make sense so far? Feel free to drop questions. I know, Jen and Jessica are paying attention in the chat. Feel free to drop questions in there. Quick survey, Jessica or Jen, anything that's in there kind of question-wise survey so far? I haven't even looked at the chat yet.
You actually answered the one question that was in there. How long is the pre-camp survey?
Yeah.
And as we're finalizing the pre-camp survey right now, there are, I think, like 27 questions on there, but a lot of them are super fast and easy to answer. And the way that they set it up, a lot of them is ranking, and they just click through, and it's pretty easy to fill out.
Perfect. The surveys are mostly, as Jessica was just referring to, they're mostly what you might bucket as kind of quantitative data, right? They're things like rankings and ordering things and things like that, where we're trying to get some actual numbers, where we can get percentages, we can get growth comparisons, we can get all of those kinds of numbers. And then there will also be a few open-ended questions, right, where they'll be able to write narrative, write short comments. Whether your camp gets the kind of mini report that Jessica was referring to, we'll talk about that more in just a bit. Whether they end up getting that or not, from a participation standpoint, you'll always get your open-ended comments. So any of the, whatever those are, everyone will get their open-ended comments. So the narrative that staff may have written, you'll get those. That's the survey overview. Feel free to drop in questions again if there are. I should have stopped the screen there for a minute. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey here in just a second, and I can stop screen sharing in just a moment here. Kelsey's going to talk process and logistics just a little bit with you about, okay, from here's where we go, how some of these things will happen. So that'll include a bit of timeline and things like that. There are sort of what happens during these phases. There's some pre-arrival stuff during the summer. Again, thankfully, is pretty light after we get them to take their surveys. But Kelsey may be checking in with communications, that important pre-departure point of that their survey, and then any follow-up after that. So let me stop sharing for a minute here and mute myself and turn it over to Kelsey.
Hello, everyone. It's really fun to see some faces on here of people that I've worked with in the past. So good to see you. Few things throughout the summer you're going to be hearing from me, especially at the beginning and the end of the summer. I'll send you the reminder emails of, hey, don't forget to give this to your staff. Here are your QR codes again. Here's your link again. And you'll probably get sick of getting my emails. I'm sorry ahead of time. I am going to post my email in the chat here, so please add it to your contacts so that it doesn't go into your spam folder. If you need to get a hold of me, I'll also put my cell phone number in there. That way, if you are having any issues, please feel free to send me a text or a call or something so we can get that figured out right away so that you guys can continue with the process of getting the surveys in. The way it kind of goes is when you sign up for this, you give me your start date and your end dates. Then I make a beautiful calendar and gives me that visual of when do I need to start emailing you. And I will send you emails a week ahead of time for each survey and like a day ahead of time as well, just to keep that on your forefront a little bit. And if there's someone else that is going to be helping you with these surveys that wasn't signed up, feel free to shoot me an email and let me know so I can add them to the contacts. Does that make sense so far? Heads nodding. Awesome. At the end too, I know last year I asked how many staffers we'd be expecting. Yeah, we have it on there again. So I'll be watching the numbers as well for surveys to come in. And if you said you have 50 staff and we only got 10 surveys in, I'll reach out to you and say, hey, can you do this again? Just to up your numbers a little bit and get you the best feedback that we can get. So I'll be watching numbers for you all summer long.
Logistics questions for Kelsey, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Kelsey, you can hop in there, pay attention in there, and feel free to hop in if it's helpful. Great. All right, let me share again for a moment here. So we're going to pivot to what you can expect in terms of outcomes. What are the things that we're going to be able to learn and see and find, and then maybe even more importantly, what are you going to do with that? What opportunities are you going to have to use those things? This isn't research for sake of research. This isn't research for sake of just finding out information that's not actionable for you. We want to be able to do things with the research. 3 key things in particular. And we talk about this with effective camp projects, with other things, but whatever we're doing, whatever we're learning, we want to be able to take action on it. And for camp, there are often 3 key things that we want to do with it. And these are the main ones. All right, we want to be able to one, turn numbers into stories. Right, these data and insights that we gather, we want to be able to combine them with the great stories about the camper who was impacted in this way. We want to combine these insights with that, and now we've got powerful stories, impactful narratives. I referred to that a little bit. So we want to be able to turn numbers into stories, right? That helps us tell our camp story, that helps us market, that helps us communicate and connect. So we want to turn numbers into stories too. We want to make informed choices about programs. We want to take what we learned and say, okay, if we know this about, in this case with the staff focused study, if we know this about our staff, that they've got energy, talent, motivation here, or the other end, that this particular kind of thing is is a disconnect for them, is not helpful, they're not thriving in that experience, that we might want to make some tweaks on our programs and the experiences that we build for them. And that might be, particular to summer experiences, and it might come in especially in things like staff training, or other, support pieces, other ways that you support those staff, take care of their mental health, make sure they get breaks, et cetera, et cetera. These things that you do to support your staff throughout the summer. So the way that you schedule things, the way that you program things, the way that you're intentional, can come from what you learn in things like this. And then this last one, of course, with staff, is to make informed choices about people. Like we said, that can be from a support standpoint, but it can spill over in a lot of these other ways. Things like our initial connecting and marketing around becoming a summer staff member, our recruiting processes, our pre-camp prep, the way that we get them ready for camp, our training, our support during the summer, and our evaluation processes after. Right, all of those are things that we can gain insights on that help inform those things, so that we can optimize them and maximize them and make changes if we need to. So this is kind of the bucket of what do we do with what we learn. I'm coming. So I want to take a minute to share some things. So to give you some examples of the kinds of outcomes, you don't obviously need to internalize all this, but it's really meant as an example. So this is something from the Episcopal camp, the Episcopal Church Leadership Project, which included a summer staff study as part of their work. So this is something that came out of that. This is right out of their report. We had broken out kind of brand new staff and returning staff, and what was the comparison in their motivators for saying yes to working on staff that summer. Right? Again, like, this isn't stuff you need to internalize, but we already noticed, and we talked through with them at their conference last year. You see these first summer staff, their top 3 answers, because these are ranked top to bottom in terms of most important, where they rank them extremely or very important. First year summer staff, they want to have fun, they want to have a positive impact on others, they are looking to experience community. Returning staff, who have already had a summer experience, have some similarities, but you'll notice the different thing that rises to the top is they get into give back mode from the experience that they had as a camper, especially as a staff member. So that tells you some things, right? Already you're probably going in your head, oh, what does that mean about how we connect with those returning summer staff members? When do we do that? What kind of language do we use when we do that? These are examples of some things we can use. Overall, again, we pulled this right out of their report, perceptions of summer impact, right? So this is the things that they most strongly agreed with down, kind of ranked down. And the highest level agreement was with this statement: the experience had a significant impact on my life, followed by leadership abilities, followed by confidence, things like that. So again, mostly this is just a sample of things that you will see in the comprehensive report, and different parts potentially in your individual reports. Of those that worked on camp staff, these are examples of some data points of those that worked on camp staff. And these are also some of the things that will help, and you'll be able to help turn into some really easily shareable things that, again, help turn those numbers into stories, and that you're able to share in your social media spaces, your emails, or whatever it might be. So you'll be able to see things like those that worked on camp staff. What difference did that make in their faith formation? Clearly, more than half said it was very extremely important. This was one that was connected to those who were working in full-time ministry. Said more than half said it was extremely important to their call to ministry. And one more for those ones who really more extremely connected with that, said camp was a primary place I received my call to professional ministry. So again, Jessica alluded to some of these like curiosities about vocation and things like that. So those again were examples of some of the outcomes. I wanted to just share some of the things that we look for when we're analyzing things and turning out the main report, and some of these other things. I'm saying that mostly because you also get to be taking in and analyzing this data. So these are some of the things that we look for, and we share with folks. Hey, these are some things to look for when you're reading a report, when you are trying to understand what you're going to do with this data. Things like patterns. What do we see over and over again? Extremes. What are the something that has super high agreement or super low agreement, for example. You saw some of those. Anything that's surprising, anything that is in particular concentrations, and especially answers to questions that you have, right? So that's the most valuable thing we can do with the data when we're looking at is we can ask it questions and then look for answers in what it says. So reports are going to come in kind of, outcomes are going to come out in deliverable things in kind of 4 ways. One is in reports. There will be a comprehensive report for the entire study. Right, this will be one big, thick, lots of stuff, clear report for the entire study. That'll be shared with the team, and then that team will be sharing that with you, giving you access to that and sharing that widely in what they learned. So a clear, comprehensive report of the impact study. Individual reports was already referred to. So individual reports, if you get more than 20 staff to fill this out, you'll get a brief, an individual report with some of your camp-specific numbers. Lower than 20 staff, the data is just not reliable enough. So that number is really just set from a kind of a data perspective, a statistical perspective. Because if you find that 20% of your folks think this way or have this motivation, but that's only actually 2 or 3 people, that's less valuable to make decisions on. So below that, it just doesn't make sense to do that. You can look at the comprehensive report numbers and kind of use those. So more than 20, you'll get an individualized brief of a few pages with your specific data. And as I mentioned, you'll get open-ended comments no matter what. Everybody will get those. So reports is one key way that you'll see the outcomes. Consultation will happen. So we will sit down, our team will sit down with the staff impact study advisory team and walk through the report, the comprehensive one. They'll share those learnings, share those findings, highlight key learnings and things that might be good action items. So that will happen. There'll be a couple presentations as well. We know 2 of those so far, and there may be more. So one of those is we already know that we've got there's a presentation that'll happen at the Great Gathering. So those that are going to the Great Gathering in November, one of the workshops is around maximizing every step of your summer staff experience. And that will include sharing some data from this study as well as the Episcopal study and the Lutheran study, right? Because now we're stacking a lot of study and data on top of each other. So we'll have some really interesting outcomes, and it will include specific data from this study and also comparative to the others. And then a community conversation like this will happen sometime after that report comes out. That's not necessarily on the schedule yet, but share those findings with an open community conversation. Graphics and assets, things that will be shareable for you that will come out in emails and social media spaces and things like that. And you'll either be able to grab that for yourself and share with your own networks or hit the share button from the association overall, right? Because again, it's not data for just for sake of data. It's meant to be storytelling and learning and sharing really good news and sharing things that we're learning. So, this is an example of something, again, just a little extra example of something that came out of the Campus Church Leadership Project. If you used any of the Camp Builds stuff that we called it and put out a couple of years ago, this was some of what was interesting there as we started to learn that vocational impact, mostly as an example of another easily shareable kind of thing. We learned, so we're going to use this to kind of wrap. So if you've either listened to the podcast or read articles or things like that, one of the key things that we have learned from these other studies, including from these other 2, and then including in the OMC the studies and things like that, have been the key things that staff need to thrive. And there's 3 of them. Keep coming back to these 3. They need support, they need agency, and they need community, particularly a community of faith, or how this graphic puts it, a community of common purpose. When staff have these 3 things in place, they tend to thrive. They tend to have a good experience. They tend to have an experience that is positive overall, that impacts them, and that impact tends to last. And so kind of partly put that into this graphic, infused with the work of the Holy Spirit and surrounded by this community of common purpose. they do these participatory experiential things. They come in with their life story. They are entered into part of this community of common purpose, and they have support and agency, meaning they have what they need, in terms of to have their basic needs met and spiritual needs met with the support that you give them, in things like training, in things like check-ins, in things like breaks and enough time to sleep, and then agency in sharing the ownership over their experience, in getting to have not just experiential learning, but experiential leadership is the word there intentionally, where they are part of choosing their experiences. It's valuable for staff. It's valuable for campers too, as well. This idea of agency and ownership over what they're doing makes a big difference, is what the data says. And so I want to share that with you. It's a finding that we already found. We expect that we're going to find a similar thing, a similar theme overall, and with this study. Okay. So let me get out of here. Oops, trying to find everybody. Come back. There we go. Sorry, I lost you. I stopped sharing and everything went dark. So what's next? Kelsey talked you through the logistics, but the biggest thing that's next is, if you haven't signed up yet, to get signed up. That's the biggest next step, right? We are hoping for at least 50, but with the overall numbers, like UMCRM could get to 60 or 70 camps that could participate in this. As Jen's nodding fervently, like, yes, we absolutely, there are enough to do that. So if you haven't filled out that participation part, hopefully, that's right, 100%, Jen, 100%. Hopefully you've seen one, the value, but two, how actually pretty easy it is to make this happen with a little bit of intentional time on the front end and a little bit of intentional time on the back end. So there's the sign up link in the chat. In a second, as we're wrapping up, I'll put up the that screen one more time. Those are the main pieces that are next. As Kelsey said, those that are signed up, before your staff arrive, usually about a week or so before your staff arrive, she'll be sending you a link to the survey. And we'll send some additional graphics and things like that. We'll send you a QR code. We'll send you a direct link that you can either, if you have a training session, you're putting that up on a slide, or you're printing out a sheet of paper with it, or whatever it might be. And to have that dedicated time to have the staff take the survey. And that's it for the first part. Kelsey will follow up. If there's, if you need to try to get some more to take it or add to the numbers, and then you're off and you do what you do, and then we'll do it again at the end. Is all. And then you get to wait for results. Go ahead, Kelsey.
We'll also make sure that the survey can be taken multiple times on the same device, just in case there is a staffer that
Good
doesn't
clarification.
have a cell phone or a device they can share. So.
Yeah, if you end up needing to, some have found value in that. I remember from the Episcopal one too, that they said, here's the laptop. Just set it up. Hey, stop. We've got this open time. Come do this. It's going to take 15 minutes. Come do this. If they don't have them, or signal is a problem, or whatever it might be, Wi-Fi's off that day, whatever it might be. So that they could do that on a camp computer or two, if that's helpful. All right, questions. That's the big next step. We'll hit with that again. What questions are there? Jessica, was there anything in the chat that is helpful to address?
Nothing came in the chat that I saw, but if anybody does have questions, feel free to unmute yourself. There was one that says, does this include junior counselors? And I responded, it has to be your staff has to be 18 years or older to partake in the survey, so we don't have to get parent permission and that kind of thing. Is there anything else you want to say about staff and who should be participating or filling out the form?
Yeah, good question. That's a big one, right? So yes, that's part of like legal survey things. You have to get parent permission if they're under 18. We have a process for that. If you have a large number of staff that are into that, reach out and we'll see. But the idea is that for sake of both the data and not having to mess with that your 18 plus staff members will take it. Or at least that's the data that would be used, that would be able to be used in there. So yes, that's the plan there. You can like having it's designed for summer staff, I suppose, is the other clarity to take. It's designed for those seasonal summer staff, to see their experience. So
yeah, that's a good point.
what else?
And Annette just asked in the chat as well, what is the length of the term for staff to be included? 1 week, 6 weeks?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. That's a good question, and the truth is, there's not a, there's not sort of an official boundary, or a clear thing to that. I mean, I think the reality is, if you've got a volunteer who is coming for 1 week, they're not having the same kind of impactful experience. If they are a couple of so there's a little bit of a judgment reality there. Some of the kind of cues, I would say, if they're part of staff training and they're there for 3 or more weeks, those are probably good cues, right? If they're there for 2 weeks or less, and particularly if they're not part of a staff training experience, those would be things where they're not, because they're not gaining the community that happens in staff training. They're not learning the same things. They're not, going through some of those impactful parts of that process. If you want to talk specifically, hey, we've got, this is our situation, we're happy to chat through that and let you know, yeah, go ahead and include them or not, if you've got a certain situation. So we'll probably take that case by case. But a couple of the cues would be staff training. Are they going through that? And just to put a general thing, that's probably 3 or more weeks. And because some of those half summer folks, they're still getting a lot of that experience. We know that's a reality. Some of the data that we've learned from this and other studies have said a lot about the value of staff going through the whole summer. A lot of us dealt with that reality. So of course, keep encouraging them to do all they can to spend that whole summer there for their own sake. And we learned a lot about the difference in impact when they're not spending the whole summer there. We've seen that in some of the other studies as well. So is that enough? Is that enough to be helpful? I realize that's not a hard boundary, and we didn't, the team hasn't set, this is our hard line there. So
I think that's really helpful. And I think it's an important question for our community, especially since we have so many ministries that are still utilizing the volunteer counselor model. That the intent of this survey isn't necessarily for those 1 week volunteers that are coming in, but for those that are going through staff training and staying the whole summer, and that we don't have to think of summer staff just as counselors. Your lifeguards, ropes course, support staff, all of them are part of the community of camp during the summer, and to make sure you're including them as well.
Yep, well said.
So it does bring up the end of the summer survey. If you do have those staffers that are there for staff training, are there for 3 or 4 weeks, and you want them to take that end survey, once it is complete, I will do an initial email out to you with that survey, so you have it on deck for those that are leaving early. But I won't necessarily have that reminder email going out to you. Okay, so put on a Post-it and stick it up there.
Yeah, good call, Kelsey. Thank you. That's good clarification, Jessica. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions?
If somebody isn't sure whether they signed up or not, how do they find that out?
Shoot me an email. I'm happy.
Thanks for checking on that one, Jen. Yeah.
Yeah. Or me. I don't look it up.
They've got your back. Yeah, they can let you know. Kelsey or Jen can both let you know if you send up. Other questions or clarifications or comments about how excited you are? We'll take those too.
So just to clarify, if we do have a larger chunk of staff that aren't 18, there is an option if we wanted to to reach out to you. Like I have like 6 or 7. That wouldn't be 18.
Good question, Robin. I think the truth is we'd have to check back with Jake and the advisory team to say how do we want to handle that.
Okay.
Because one, like I said, there are a couple of realities. There's one, the parent permission reality. We can't legally survey them without in a survey like this without parent permission.
Certainly.
We have to do that for campers and things like that. We gain parent permission. There's also kind of the question about the cleanliness of the data and being able to put clear, this particular thing explored these particular sets, right? We do that with other points of data, right? We just talked about the length, right? We're not a 1 week volunteer who's there half time. We don't include that necessarily. So we'd have to check in, Robin. So I don't want to say yes, we can definitely survey them, and here's how we do it. We'd want to check in with Jake and the advisory team to see what the best bet would be for that.
Okay. I think that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll find that answer and we'll make sure that we put it in any communication that we have going out.
Thanks, Robin. Good question. Other questions before we just clarify some next steps and wrap up? I'm seeing none. Jessica, you seeing any?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So questions can continue by emailing, Kelsey on any of these survey specifics or overall questions for us. Obviously, this has been significant kind of the partnership between Sacred Playgrounds and UMCRM. And so Jessica and Jen and those advisor team folks know all about this and know what's happening and know what they're doing and have access to all the things. And so they can answer a lot of those questions as well. Again, your next steps are sign up if you haven't. The link was in there. And tell your best camp friend, because it would be so fun. I know for you to tell. Okay, maybe I'll say it like this: the Lutherans had over 50 participate, and don't let them win. Is maybe how we'll just put it. Maybe we'll just say that. So so we'd love to see those. Yeah, I'd love to see those numbers get up past 50. That's a good thing for the data overall. The more that you can get, the broader the reach there, right? With all of these different parts, whether it's regionality or length of camp or kind of experience that they have, or all of this, that data does good things because you're part of something bigger. It's part of why you're sitting in this room, because you realize you're part of this association, and you're even then part of this bigger picture of the Christian camp industry and the camp industry overall. And so when you are part of that, you contribute to that. You see yourself as part of that camp-centric ecosystem in the midst of the overall faith formation ecosystem that you're part of, between homes and churches and these other kinds of experiences in your area. So we'd love to see those get up. So tell your best camp friend and make sure they sign up too. And then you'll get your email soon, within the next few weeks, as we're getting questions finalized and go from there. That's right. You are the biggest OMC denomination, Jen. So lots of participation. Thanks all. Grateful for you. You're doing really good work.
Jared and Kelsey, thank you so much for being here and sharing this information, orientation, inspiring us to participate. This is really exciting research that we're doing this coming summer, and I can't wait to see the stories that we're able to share because of it. So thank you all for participating.